The Agent David O. Show.
All right, guys, welcome to the show. I'm David O, your host, and I'm here with a very special guest today. Very excited to be hosting Adam Droege of Complete Realty Solutions. Adam's a phenomenal broker, an investor, a property manager, a realtor, a team lead. In fact, he just won his first EXP Icon Award this year. So cool. He's been listed in some of the fastest growing businesses in America. He manages is upwards of 600 rental properties, has a team of like 50 people. Just an incredible honor to have him on and to learn from him today. Adam, what's going on, brother?
Dave, thank you so much. And sorry to jump off correcting you, but it's actually about 1,000 rental units. So
Nice.
yeah, but going good,
Growing
man. Thanks for
crazy.
having me. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's growing crazy. But yeah, super excited to be on with you today. So I appreciate you having me.
Cool, man. We'll just share a little bit with us on how you got into real estate and what started all this for you.
Absolutely. So I originally started, my wife and I, we were doing the house hacking. We were moving into properties. We were fixing them up while we were living there. And before I got my first house, I said, hey, I'll go get my real estate license because, I thought realtors didn't do anything at that time except open doors, right?
That's right.
And so when got my real estate license, realized that there is so much more to it than opening doors. And we started fix these houses up, and then weekends and evenings I would start helping friends and family find their properties and sell their properties. And over time that slowly transitioned into buying our rental properties, starting to self-manage. And then we started to have friends and family also ask us to manage theirs, so we slowly started adding on those. And it was about March of 2020 we had to decide, are we going to we were getting up to, about 45 units under management at that point. And we said, are we going to actually turn this into a real business, or do we need to ship these off to somebody else because it was turning into a full-time job? And so we decided to launch Complete Realty Solutions at that time, and open up the doors to the public and said, hey, we do property management. And through my previous experience of helping investors buy and sell their houses, I started to get flooded with inquiries and saying, hey, we can't find a good property manager. Will you manage ours? Will you manage ours? And that seemed to be the theme for, since we opened up the doors. And we went from, 45 units in March of 2020 to, now we, we're bringing on, gosh, another 50 doors in December. And
Wow.
so that'll push us past the 1,000 mark, which is exciting.
That's incredible, dude. So
Yeah.
property management, I know from my experience that seems like it's got to be the hardest job in the world. Like someone's always complaining, whether it's a tenant or the landlord, and you're just kind of stuck in the middle. And so in my experience, I've seen so many bad property management companies, and you've like just totally blown us away with the service and the quality of service you guys are providing to the landlords. How do you guys differentiate yourselves from all of these other property managers out there? How do you make it so successful?
I appreciate you saying that. A big part of it is, I got to give kudos to my business partners. Corey Box, he's the CEO of our company. He manages the property management division and just does an incredible job. He's a great leader, attracts good talent. And also, Dave Delicato runs our maintenance construction division. He's a very militant guy, very organized, which you need in that position. And people really tend to follow him well. And so we have a very low turnover in our construction department, which is rare in this industry. And so I think one of the, a couple things we do is we really always look at people first, right? We look at our tenants as not just numbers on spreadsheets, but actually real people that have real problems, and we're the people that solve those problems, right? And so when we try to develop relationships, personal relationships with these tenants to where they will work with us, hey, I'm behind on my rent. How can I work this out, right? Hey, we just don't want to send them right to eviction and then, be done with it. We want to try to work it out with them. So we try to treat them like real people. And then also, while it certainly happens at times when we hire somebody and they get into a position and they get overworked, right? That's very easy to do in real estate in general, but especially property management. We try to not let that happen for extended periods of times. There are certainly times where everybody in every position is overworked, right? Real estate goes like this, ebb and flows where you're high in work and then you might get a little break. Well, if we see people that are overworked for, any extended period of time, we try to add more people to that division, right? So we try to support our staff and we want to keep our staff happy and keep them a long time because one of the most expensive things is turnover in our properties and turnover in our employees, right? So if we can keep our tenants happy and our employees happy, right, then we have people in there that already have those relationships with our employees, with our vendors, with the rest of our team, and they understand how all of our systems and processes work. And so we save money on training and we save money on turnover. So really, I'd say the way we differentiate as ourselves is we don't look at trying to create the largest margin. We have to be profitable, that's for sure, but we try to create a really good product that we keep investing back into our people, back into our properties, and try not to overwork our people. The thing about property management is it's a highly systems and process driven business, right?
Mhm.
So if you don't have your systems and processes in place, then you're every time something comes up, you're asking your people to overwork themselves to solve a problem that keeps coming up repetitively. But if
Yeah.
you put that problem into a system and create an SOP around it, right? When it comes up, you have a procedure for it. This is the procedure. It's the same way every time. You get better at handling that procedure. It's more systemized. And so it takes a little less time each time you do it. So not only do we try to keep up with our staffing, but we try to give them the right tools, the right softwares, and the right systems and SOPs to where they're able to handle every situation repetitively day in and day out to where they don't feel overwhelmed by the work and they can keep up with it and they don't feel like they want to like many people do, leave and run away from the property management division.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, great answer. What I got out of that was people and systems, right? You're taking care
Yep.
of your people, you're making sure your people aren't overworking, that you've got enough support there for them, and then you're treating your tenants like real people and you're trying to work with them and they're going through something difficult. You're there to, not just say rent is due and try to evict them as soon as you can. You're willing to work with them and build a relationship that will be long term. I like that a lot. And then your systems, and you're a guy I know that's been dialed in on systems for a long time, and that's easily probably a big component on why you're going to be managing 1,000 properties here pretty soon and managing all the people that you do. To somebody that may not have systems in their business. I know a couple years ago I didn't. I ended up reading a book called Traction, and that really kind of educated me, like, how do I even start building a system? I was feeling a lot of the pain that you're talking about there. You have a problem that comes up, and then you're like having to resolve it every time. And if you just would have spent the extra time the first time and documented that process, that way, anybody can do it, right? You can just follow the next step. So what advice would you have for somebody that doesn't have any systems right now and needs to get systems in place to unlock the next level of their growth?
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess my first piece would be, when, I come from the corporate world background, right, where they offered amazing training. And, I think it's important to realize that those training programs and systems were put together sometimes over decades, right, that you're stepping into and learning, and they've had it all baked out. Well, when you step into a small business that just started up, they don't have those decades of putting together those training programs and SOPs. So you're doing a lot of it on the fly, right? And it takes a lot of time and energy to set that up. So, you know, I would say that you not only have to complete your task list of what you have to do every day, right? This tenant needs to be called back for this, maintenance work order needs to put in, this construction project is sitting empty. We got to get that finished, right? But you also have to work on your business. You have to take a portion of your time and work on your business. You have to look at your business and say, okay, these are the main things that I do every day. How do we start with one thing and improve it, right? And you just whiteboard that process out where you actually draw out the process from start to finish. And you say, this is the best way to handle that. And you put together a step by step SOP for that, and then you document that, and then you put it into your library of SOPs, and you just start somewhere, right? Because if you try to attack your whole business at once,
Yeah.
all of the things that go into real estate and property management, it's overwhelming. But
Right.
just start somewhere. Start with one place and start your SOP library and put together a template for your SOPs, right? So you can just copy that template and then create the new SOP off that template each time to where they all look the same. When you're looking at them, you don't need to look where you need to go and say, where does step one start? What's, software do you need? What tools do you need? It's all kind of in the same outline every single time. And so I would say you have to work on your business. You have to do that, or you're just going to be caught in the fire all day, every day.
Yeah.
And you have to start somewhere and start somewhere and then just build upon it from there. You can't do everything yourself. We like to think we can, but you cannot do everything yourself. So as soon as you have the opportunity to hire somebody, you have to start hiring people. Otherwise, you're just creating a job for yourself. A very busy,
Right.
time-consuming, really low margin job.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think leverage is one of the things that like we tend to miss like the opportunity with that when we're getting started in real estate. Especially I was a solo agent when I started out, and the thought of like having a buyer's agent on my team and giving up 50% of my commission was like, no way. I'm not giving up 50% of my commission. But then I realized, like, wait, I can do a lot more deals if I have that other agent on my team and I'm not writing every offer, I'm not showing every property. And I'll never forget the first time I brought a buyer's agent on. I had handed over this investor that I had about a 15-minute phone call with, and we signed him to a buyer's agency agreement and handed him off to my buyer's agent. And about 2 months later, she came back to me and she's like, "Hey, we just closed. Do you have any other investors I can work with?" And I was like, "Wait a minute, you just closed? I hadn't heard anything. I hadn't heard anything from them over the last 2 months. I just figured nothing was happening." But sure enough, I go check my bank account and I got $2,500 deposited in my bank account. They had just closed a deal, got a $5,000 commission, and I'm sitting here doing the math. I was like, I spent 15 minutes and I earned $2,500. I'm like, that's like $10,000 an hour, Dave. Like I ran upstairs to my wife's office. I was beating on her door. I was like, this is insane. You're not gonna believe this. I'm a real estate agent. I'm making $10,000 an hour. And my
It's
wife was like,
incredible.
yeah, just figure out how to do that once, once more than once every 2 months. It's like, but yeah, yeah, that's the power of leverage though, right?
Yeah, that's right.
We can give up a share, but building out a team, you're able to manage, 1,000 properties now, something that you would have never been able to manage, on your own. So I love that. So when it comes to scaling, what are some keys that you would give like to somebody that was thinking about scaling or building their team or trying to do more transactions, more deals, manage more properties or whatever they're trying to do?
Yeah, yeah, that's a tricky one because there's not a lot of playbooks on how to scale a property management company, right? And the people that do know how to do it, they don't just give out all their secrets. So, you kind of learn a lot of it on the fly. But if you look at it this way, if you are like one single property manager managing a book of business, let's say you're managing 100 doors, right? You are very, very busy because you are onboarding the investors, right? You're onboarding their properties, you're walking the properties, you are leasing the properties, you're writing the leases up, you're getting them signed, you are putting in the maintenance work orders, you're coordinating with the contractors and vendors, right? You're
Mhm.
moving the tenants out when they move out, and you're figuring out how to get the owners their monthly owner statements, right? And that's just a list of 8 items, and there are
Yeah.
dozens of others. And so if you think about one
Yeah, I love that.
person's,
So hold on a second. So 100 properties. Do you think one person team managing 100 properties is that easily a full-time job, like a
oh
40-hour week?
gosh, yes, oh,
Yeah.
100%. That's
Awesome.
a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
But let's look at every individual person's skill set, right? Everybody has different skills. Some things they're good at, some things they're bad at, right? Really good sales reps are notorious for not being incredibly organized, right? But they
Yep.
are hard charging, getting stuff done, but they need people around them to kind of put together clutter, and vice versa. People that are incredibly organized, CPAs and bookkeepers, things like that, they're not necessarily extroverts that would be really good sales reps, right? But as one property manager, you're expected to be good at every single one of those jobs, but you can't be. Nobody is good at every single one of those jobs. So if you're
Yeah.
trying to scale a company, right,
Yep.
you need to first off start breaking off the pieces that you are the least efficient at and the worst at, and hire somebody to place in those, right? And so if you think about it, let's say property management has 12 main categories that you need to be good at, right? And you hire those 12 people and you break down each category into one individual position. Well, let's just say that leasing is its own position, right? Well, when you actually break down leasing, now leasing goes into showing properties, screening tenants, marketing the properties, talking to owners about rents, right? Figuring out when the leases are up and doing renewals, and figuring out when properties are going to be ready and done with the turnover so you can start marketing them, right? So there's a bunch of things that leasing. Now we've broken leasing into 5 different categories, right? So on
Yeah.
maximum scale, on the peak scale where you're the most efficient, you have one person doing the same exact thing over and over and over and over again every single day because they're using the same software, same tools, doing the same thing. They're the best at that process. And then you fit that person that does that into that position, right? Based off of their personality, off of their skill set. And so you got a person that's highly skilled in this once job that they're doing over and over and over again every single day. So they're incredibly efficient at it. They know it better than anybody else, and they're not getting distracted, right? Task switching cost money. Not only task switching costs money, but every time you task switch, it takes your attention away from what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So on peak scale, you have one person doing the same exact thing repetitively, right? On the opposite of no scale at all, you're constantly task switching, involved in 12 different activities, and you're not really efficient at anything, right? And so that's why I always tell people, when they're thinking about property management companies, they're like, oh, I'm talking to this company that, they're small and they only got 1 or 2 people and they can give me the attention I deserve, right? And I tell them, I say, listen, I understand why you think that way. I also thought that way before I understood what property management was like and what scale was like. But there's no way for them to offer the service to you, right? That somebody that scaled out could offer. Because if you are in leasing, right, the second a property comes up for leasing, you know what you're doing? You have a team to jump right on it, get right in your systems, get the marketing started, picture scheduled, right? To get it fast. And in
Yeah.
property management, weeks pass by and months pass by very quickly, right at a time. And you could say, yeah, I need to go by this property and schedule a occupancy inspection, right? And it's on your task list. And maybe you don't get to that task until the end of the day or the next day, right? Whenever, if somebody was at scale and they did that, they'd see that pop up on their plate, they'd schedule it right away and they'd get it in the conveyor belt, right? Get it in the pipeline. And what you look at in a turnover process and in a property management process is those days that you add to each step of the process turn into weeks and turn into months, and those months cost the owners money, right?
Yeah.
So the only way to really reach true scale is you have a system for everything that comes through, and you have one person repetitively doing the same thing every day that they have become very good at, and they understand the ins and outs of that
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome, dude. Thanks for dropping that. Like, I mean, yeah, there's no way with all the different skill sets that a property manager needs to have, like to switch all the hats and do give you the quality of service at a good level across the board. It's like impossible, right? And
And if it is possible, I was doing it. Now I wasn't doing it as good as we're doing it now. I was doing it and I felt like a decent level, but the problem is it wasn't financially sustainable because all of my time was going towards these activities that a lot of them were low level activities, but they needed to be done quickly, right?
yeah,
And so
yeah,
I was still doing it, but it had the wrong person in the wrong seat. And so I was constantly spending my time and I couldn't make as much money as I needed to, supply for my family and things like that because I was getting sucked in low level tasks.
yep,
Now, you can do low level tasks and make good money at it, but you have to do it in volume, right? If you're not
yeah,
doing it in volume, then you're not going to make good money at
right.
it.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I can relate to my business because we work with a lot of investors, and one of my number one competitors here in town was a shop that was offering that they did. I'm just a broker and an investor, so I help people acquire the properties as their agent. Well, this competitor that I had, they offered the agency service, property management service, renovation service, construction service. So they were offering like basically all in one house, come work with me type of thing. And like they were getting business because, they were saying, hey, you don't have to go out and find all these other people. Like we just do it all ourselves. But what I was finding was people would be coming back to me and saying, hey, yeah, like all the services were crummy. Like none of them were good. And like I found out like how I could compete with them is I'm just going to be the best agent in my market. And then I'm going to go out and find the best property manager, which happens to be Adam here on this call. And I'm going to go find the best contractor and the best lender to work with. And I'm going to put like an all-star team together. I'm not going to be responsible for everything. I'm just going to do my piece. And that's how we've been able to compete with this competitor and really kind of take off and grow while he kind of just was trying to juggle all of those balls and try to keep up with the quality service, which just I didn't see it as being possible.
It's funny you say that because you guys are, maybe you haven't reached max scale at helping investors, but you have at least scaled, right?
Yeah,
And we have not scaled when it comes to the agency side and helping investors. So we had a couple groups come to us that we started to work with, and we said, hey, our systems and processes are not up to par to be able to help this volume of investors. And actually, some of those we have shipped to you guys, and you guys have even started working with and helped them on a much larger volume than we could ever handle because we're not scaled out in that department. So that is a
yeah,
very good example of yes, I could figure it out, I could stumble through it, but I don't have the scale to make it
right.
possible and make money at it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's cool. Well, that's you like just realizing, hey, this is my genius zone and I need to focus on this, and anything else is kind of a distraction that could take away from the success we're having in other parts of our business. I like that a lot.
That's right. We can help our property owners if they want to add a property here and there. They
Yeah,
want to sell a property. We have a small team to help that, but we can't help, the large masses of
right.
investors. You guys can.
Yeah, so I want to pivot a little bit in our conversation. So you came over to our brokerage EXP a little over a year ago, I think, and you've really had success here. I want you to kind of talk about like some of the things that you've noticed being a property manager and being at EXP that have really allowed you to take advantage of the opportunity here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really helped out a ton. So we were with a different brokerage, and we were trying to figure out where to house our property management at, right? And they did not want to house our property management. And honestly, EXP didn't either want to house our property management. And so we decided to just start our own brokerage, right? Which is under Complete Property Management Solutions, DBA Complete Realty Solutions, right? That's where our marketing comes through is Complete Realty Solutions. And so what we figured out as we started looking at bringing all those agents in house on our management division is there's all kinds of compliance that you had to follow in every single contract, and
Yeah,
there's a lot more systems that you had to set up. You had to keep track of all the splits, right, of the commissions,
there's
and figure
overhead.
out
Yeah,
when people capped, and like there was a lot of bookkeeping and record keeping that we weren't really interested in doing. And so as we started to look around and started talking to you guys honestly about EXP, it seemed like a really good fit for a few reasons. And that's the path we decided to go. And it's worked out even better than I initially thought it was going to, because one, we don't have to mess with any of the compliance, any of the splits. We don't have to keep track of any 1099s for agents. We don't have to keep track of the bookkeeping for agents, where they're at in total commissions, and are they close to capping, and all that complicated stuff that's very time consuming
yeah,
for a brokerage. EXP keeps track of all that, and we still actually get all of them in our downline. And so we still capture a cut off them, and we're still a lead. And so we still have an 80-20 split, right, with our agents. And so we still offer them some coaching, consulting services, right, as an agent. We still offer them some sort of leads, right, as they flow through our property management company, things like that. But it takes so much of the legwork of having a brokerage off our plate um, when it comes to agents, and it allows us to really focus on the property management and focus on our maintenance and construction division and focus on buying
right,
houses and really stuff that builds wealth and
right.
makes us the money. You know, as a brokerage, you really don't make much money from the realtor team. You don't. I heard other brokerages I was with saying that same thing, and I was doing the math. I was like, how's that possible? Because I know what I'm paying you as an agent, and I just calculated this for the people. But then when I got my own, I'm like, oh, this is a really big pain in the ass, and you really don't make too much money on it.
Yeah,
And so to get that complicated section of our business off our plate, we shipped all of our agents under EXP, and so they all have their own broker, which is an EXP broker. They have
yeah,
broker questions, they go to them. They have compliance questions, they go to them.
yeah.
Right? They have payment questions, so many questions that probably the top five questions that come from agents, they don't come to us, they go to them now, and so they take that workload off our
That's awesome.
plate.
Yeah.
And we still get a team, so we still get the benefits of having a team, but we take away a lot of the legwork and complications of that, and we still get decent payoff of the broker off the agents.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. Yeah, you and I have some mutual friends who are brokers and have quite a few agents, and I've been with them and seen the day-to-day, life of their what's going on, and they're just like all day long they are signing stuff. They are signing people's contracts, they are signing people's commission checks. There's just constant like paperwork that they're doing. And I'm like, that looks miserable. It's
Yes,
like,
it is miserable. And Michelle, my wife, she is our broker of our management company. But if I was going to put that on her, she would probably just resign
yeah,
overnight.
right. Very good. So I thought I heard you mention a couple months ago when we were together that you're doing something interesting with like property man, maybe your leasing agents and how you're bringing them over and how they're at EXP and you're seeing some advantages there. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, one of the perks of EXP is the downline, right?
Yeah.
That's one of their biggest selling points, and that's why they've exploded so much is their downline over the years. And so what I figured out is that we don't do recruiting. I don't do recruiting. I don't talk to anybody about recruiting, although I should. I know I just don't. But we've naturally just accidentally got a downline of, I don't know, 15 or 16 people, and it happens through the property management company, right? So basically, if our leasing agents, our showing agents, we like them all to be licensed, and so it's a good opportunity to say, hey, I know you've been in real estate a year or two, or maybe even longer. Your book of business is down, or you're just getting started, right? And you need a little bit of, how hard it is to get started in real
Oh,
estate.
heck
Most
yeah.
people do it on the side because they
Yeah.
could never jump into real estate if they had a whole family to support and make it work, right? You either have a significant other that's carrying the burden, or you do it on the side over a year's time and then you jump
Yeah.
into it full time. Well, we're able to give them a salary or some sort of payment to work in the management company, right? And get some sort of hourly or salary payment. And they're still able to build their realtor business on the side, right? So they are licensed under EXP, right? That's their broker, but they work for a property management company and showing and things like that. And so they're actually able to one, go in our downline, right? So it's automatic recruit to our downline. They're managed on the realtor side by the EXP, and then we're able to actually work with them on the property management side and showing and leasing and doing all that. And so when they eventually they might graduate out of that and build up a book of business big enough to go out on their own and realty, and then they'll just stay on the realty side, and then we'll replace them right with somebody else that's licensed and showing properties and working in the leasing department. So it's a natural recruiting tool. Our property managers, we like them to be licensed. It's a natural recruiting tool without even trying to recruit, right? So if you're required to be licensed, we'll bring you on, we'll hire you, give you pay, and then you'll change a requirement of ours is you have to change your license to a realtor team, right, with EXP. And people have no problem with that if they're wanting to start work for the management company.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. I love that. And you and I know how hard it is to get started as a new agent. I feel like so many people like they go and get their license and they think well, they passed the test, they made it. It's like you literally my our sponsor Jay Kinder always says you get like a plaque that says go figure it out. Like that's what you just won. And like people have this assumption that once I get my license, I'm going to just start selling real estate. I can sell real estate. And it's like, well, no, there's like this whole other grind to build up a book of business and get your first couple sales and start serving clients. And I love the kind of the incubator that you created in the property management side that's like, hey, get your license. Hey, we're going to train you up. We're going to pay you a little bit of a salary. You're going to start leasing properties. You're going to get experience here and pay while you're building up that book of business that might take a couple years. And then when you're ready, you can graduate from us and just start becoming a full-time realtor and hopefully make the big bucks then, right? I love that. That's a huge like opportunity for people to kind of launch into being a real estate agent. The easy and spelled out path there that you guys have created. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. It gives people an opportunity to get started. And that's the hardest thing in real estate is to make it, right? Make it past your first year, 2 years.
Yeah, what's the stat? Like 90 or 90% of agents fail within the first 3 years or something like that. It's insane.
I would argue that the 10% or whatever that make it, I would argue that 90+% of those have a significant other that's carrying the financial
Yeah,
burden,
yeah,
or they're doing it on the side.
right.
Um, I would argue very few people, if anybody, can jump into real estate full time and make it work if they have a financial burden already, right? If their
Yep,
cost of living is a couple $1,000s a month, which I don't know how that would be possible,
right.
maybe, but most people, not that it's not the case. So I don't know many people, or you might have a bunch of money saved up, right?
Yep.
Either way, you're going a period of time, 6, 12 months without getting much pay.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I started this business on the side, and it wasn't a couple years until I felt comfortable that I could do this full time and
I
had
did a
some, yeah,
six,
yeah,
6 years.
yep,
I was working in the corporate world and doing real estate on the side.
yeah, yeah. I got licensed in 13, so I was actually 6 years as well. But those first 4 years, I was it was never on my radar to actually become a full-time real estate professional. It was only when I finally got burned out at my corporate job, I was like, I need to look into this real estate thing and stop just selling a couple houses a year and figure out how to make a living. So,
You guys
yeah.
have done awesome. I guess we are setting I guess it's 6 years is what it takes.
Yeah, 6 years, overnight success. 6 years later. Yeah, it's funny. People like think that we've became successful so quickly, and it's like, dude, this took years.
Oh yeah. Well,
Like, yeah,
I started in December of, I think it was 11, maybe 10 or 11. So I'm going on 14 or 15 years
yeah,
in the business. So
yeah,
yeah, I'm just a couple ahead of you. And it's,
right.
I literally have, I had what looked like successful years, but very few financial successful years until the past, honestly, 2 or 3 years.
Yep. Yep, I've rode the roller coaster there as well. You think you're going good, and then all of a sudden you let your foot off the gas, you stop watching, and then you're back to trying to figure out how to grow again. But yeah, I
Moves
think
in your
most
unit,
people,
and
yeah,
that
most
tenant
people,
moves in your unit, destroys it, and now you got a
yes,
$30,000 bill. You're like, oh, I,
yeah,
I did have a good year, but then it all disappeared.
and then it's all gone. Right? Yeah, sometimes it can only take one bad deal to take your
Oh yeah.
down. But yeah, I think most people are overestimating what they can do in a year in this business, and they're vastly underestimating what they can do in 5 years in this business. It's like I try to help people like let's create a vision for like what the next 5 years look like because one year, like you're gonna be, yeah, especially if you're just getting started, it is going to be a grind. And
Yep.
you're not gonna become a billionaire. You're not gonna make hundreds of thousands of dollars, but like 5 years from now, you could become financially free. I mean, that's totally possible.
Yeah.
Well, cool, man. This has been great. Anything that you wanted to share with the audience before we sign off?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just along the topic of starting into real estate, if you want to get started in real estate, I would say yes, absolutely do it.
Yeah,
Do it on the side. Do it on
yeah,
the side at first. I've told multiple people this. Some of them did take my advice. They jumped into it full time, and it was a struggle bus for years.
yes,
And some of them made it, and some of them didn't. But if you started on the side and prove yourself and get a little momentum, the ride is so much easier to start, and it's great to make the income you're making already in your current job and make side income. And that's just a triple bonus to actually start investing and build up some sort of momentum to get out
yep,
into real estate full time. But maybe it might not take 6 years for other people, but I would guess 3 to 5 years on the side,
yeah,
if you really want to start and create something successful. And I say that mainly because investing in real estate and building wealth in real estate, you do want some money, right? And if you just jump into it full time, it's not just that you're struggling for those year, 2 or 3 years, it's that it's sucking up any savings that you have
Yeah.
and other investments that you have. But not only that, but it's taking away your ability to add to those investments during that time period. So, don't jump into it full time at first. Build it up over 3 to 5 years and then jump into it.
Yeah, I love that. I always tell people the best time to start in real estate is when you have a job. Like,
Oh yeah.
do not quit your job and get into real estate. Like, get into real estate, keep getting those paychecks. And, I was able to buy like my first 10 rental properties and not need any of the cash flow from those deals and just kept putting them back, putting the money back into the property and paying down the mortgages and stuff like that. And I think my first year out of corporate, I had three of my rentals paid off already. Like, because I was just using my corporate
That's
pay to,
incredible.
to live off of. And now I'm coming out and my cash flow is really nice on those three because they're free and clear. They're completely paid off.
That's incredible.
So yeah, it's amazing what you can do if you can just start this on the side. And real estate's one of those cool jobs where like most of the things we do, it doesn't take me 8 hours to work today. There's just like a couple of 5-minute tasks that I have to
Yep.
get done. And maybe I have to go look at a property and takes an hour. But like usually you can work a pretty part-time schedule in real estate and get by with it. And that's what I love about it so much. Yeah.
It's key. It's those action steps you're talking about. They take 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes filling out an application with a lender or getting on the MLS, setting up a search portal or meeting
Yep.
with an agent, right? All those are broken down into small
Yeah.
tasks, but they're action steps that you're not required to take. But
Right.
if you want to move the ball forward, you're required to take them. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I agree 100%. You could do it actually sometimes better if you do it on the side and have that financial backing. And banks love you
Yeah.
more, and you just look better on paper
Yeah.
too.
What I found is like you don't need the deal as bad. Like I remember like some of the newer agents and investors that I work with that were like just desperate to do the deal, right? Even if it wasn't a good deal. But like when you still have that job, it's like, oh, this may not be a good deal for this client. I'm going to let them know. I'm not going to try to sell them something just so I can make a quick buck. And I developed a lot of long-term relationships because I told people, no, don't buy that. That's a bad deal. And over the course of years, they bought many, many properties from me versus if I would have said, hey, let's just do this. You can get through, you can get by with those problems that came back on the inspection. They would have lost money on that deal and never done another deal with me. And it's like, it would have been bad for both of us. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, well, this has been great, Adam. Thanks for being on here. Let people know kind of where they can connect with you if they want to follow up with you.
Yep. Complete Realty Solutions. Just search that STL. You search my name, it'll pop up. Numbers there, and just reach out anytime. I'm easy to find.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on, Adam. Appreciate it. Have a great week and God bless everybody out there.
Too, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Later.